Now, this is the story of the blind oracle of Ajimoke, the curse of the orphan girl. In the heart of ancient Yoruba land, nestled between two mighty rivers, was the village of Ajimoke. Known for its prosperous farmlands and peaceful traditions, the village was home to tales of gods and spirits that shaping its culture and way of life. But none of these tales were as chilling as that of Abike, the blind orphan girl, whose fate changed the destiny of many. Abike's story began in the dry season, when the skies of Ajimoke were cloudless and the sun blazed fiercely upon the land. Her parents, humble farmers, had once lived on the outskirts of the village, close to the forest, where ancient spirits were said to dwell. Though they had little, they were known for their kindness and hospitality. But one night, everything changed. Bandits descended upon Ajimoke, robbing and setting fires to homes in their wake. Abike's parents were among the few unfortunate ones who did not survive the attack. At just 7 years old, Abike was left to fend for herself. In the chaos of that night, a stray amber from the burning hut blinded her eyes, leaving her in total darkness, both physically and emotionally. The villagers pitied her, but none were willing to take her in. "She is cursed," they whispered, "a child of misfortune." The superstitious rumors grew louder, and soon Abike found herself abandoned on the outskirts of Ajimoke, in the very forest her parents had feared. Alone and blind, she wandered, her feet bleeding from the rough forest ground, but the forest, though feared by many, did not reject her. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. Birds, who typically avoided humans, began to gather around Abike, guiding her to fruit-bearing trees and streams for water. At night, the howls of wolves and leopards could be heard, but none ever approached her. It was as if the spirits of the forest had adopted her as one of their own. And soon, Abike began to survive, through the whispers of the wind and the vibrations in the earth. What the villagers did not know was that the blind orphan girl had begun to awaken something ancient, something forgotten, for within the forest lay the shrine of Oya, the goddess of storms and change. And it was said that those with pure souls, who were wronged by others, would be granted her protection and vengeance. Months passed, and through the village of Ajimoke resumed its peaceful rhyme, the memory of Abike lingered in the air like a distant storm. Strange omens began to disturb the village. Crops, once bountiful, began to wither unexpectedly. Cattle would wander into the forest, never to return. The village priest, Baba Ifagbe, consulted the Ifa oracle, but no clear answers were given. One night, under a crystal moon, a group of hunters ventured into the forest in search of a game. Among them was Tolu, the son of the village wealthiest man. He was proud, arrogant, and believed himself untouchable. When the hunters spotted Abike gathering berries by the riverbank, they laughed cruelly. "Isn't that the cat's side?" Tolu jeered. "I thought the village had destroyed her long ago." Abike remained silent, her sightless eyes staring into the distance as if she could see through the darkness. But Tolu was not finished. "Let's see if the spirits of the forest will protect you now," he said, raising his spear. The other hunters hesitated, but they did nothing to stop him. With a swift motion, Tolu flung the spear toward Abike, But before he could reach her, a fierce gust of wind erupted from the river, knocking the spear aside and sending the hunters to the ground. Shaking, Tolu got up, his face twisted in anger. "Witch!" he screamed. "You've bewitched the forest!" And with that, he and the other hunters fled, leaving Abike alone once more. But what Tolu did not realize was that he had just sealed his fate. Over the next few weeks, Tolu's fortunes took a turn for the worst. His cattle began to die mysteriously, his crops withered, and his father's wealth dwindled as misfortune after misfortune befell their household. The villagers began to whisper once again, "It is the cause of the blind girl," they said. Desperate, Tolu sought the help of Papa Ifagbe, the old priest. Sensing the weight of the situation, led a divination ritual that revealed a terrible truth. "The spirits have been angered," he said gravely. "A wronged soul walks among us, and until justice is done, the curse will grow." Tolu, arrogant as ever, refused to believe the priest. "It's nonsense," he spat. "A mere blind girl cannot curse me." But deep down, he knew the truth. The forest had protected Abike, and now the spirits would demand retribution. One by one, the hunters who had accompanied Tolu that night began to fall ill. Some claimed to hear voices in the wind calling their names, while others saw ghostly figures standing at the edge of the forest. Fear gripped the village, and soon Tolu's arrogance turned to desperation. Meanwhile, Abigail grew stronger. Her connection to the forest deepened, and she began to understand the language of the spirits. They whispered to her of power, of justice, and of vengeance. The forest was alive with energy, and she was his chosen vessel. It wasn't long before word reached the elders of Ajimoke. The council, fearing for the safety of the village, sent a delegation to the forest, led by Baba Ifagbe, to seek peace with the spirits. They found Abike sitting at the base of an ancient tree, her blind eyes gazing into distance. "Child," Baba Ifagbe called softly, "we seek your forgiveness. The village has wronged you." Abike did not respond immediately. She sat in silence, listening to the whispers of the spirits around her. Finally she spoke, her voice calm, yet filled with an otherworldly power. "The forest has spoken," she said. "Justice must be served." Baba Ifagbe nodded solemnly. "What must we do to appease the spirits?" Abike rose to her feet, her frail figure suddenly seeming larger, more powerful. "Bring Tolu to me," she said. "Only then will the curse be lifted." The priest returned to the village with the message, and the council summoned Tolu, terrified but too proud to admit his fear. He reluctantly agreed to go, but he had no intention of submitting to the will of the blind orphan girl. As Tolu approached the forest with the delegation, the skies darkened, thunder rumbled in the distance, and the wind began to howl. The spirits were stirring. When they reached the ancient tree where Abike awaited them, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Abike stood before Tolu, his eyes, unseen but happy, commanding. "You tried to take my life," she said, her voice echoing with the power of the spirits. "Now the forest demands yours." Tolu laughed bitterly. "You are just a blind girl. What can you do?" Before anyone could react, the wind shrugged and a blot of lightning struck the ground beside Tolu. The earth split open, and dark shadowing figures rose from the cracks. The spirits of the forest had come to claim him. Tolu screamed as the shadows enveloped him. pulling him toward the earth. "Please, forgive me," he cried, but it was too late. The spirit showed no mercy to those who had wronged their chosen one. The villagers watched in horror as Tolu was dragged into the earth, his screams fading into the wind. The curse had claimed its first victim. But Abike's vengeance was not yet complete. "The hunters who stood by and did nothing," she said, turning her gaze toward the remaining men. "They too must face justice." One by one, the hunters fell to their knees, begging for mercy, but Abike remained unmoved. "The spirits demand balance," she said, and with that, the shadows took them as well. When the ordeal was over, only Baba Ifagbe remained standing. "The curse is lifted," Abike said quietly, "but the village will never forget the price of injustice." The villagers, shaken by what they had witnessed, returned to Ajimoke with heavy hearts. The tale of the blind orphan girl spread far and wide, and from that day forward, no one dared speak ill of her again. As Abike remained in the forest, she continued to commune with the spirits. She had become more than just a blind orphan. She had become the oracle of Ajimoke, the voice of the forest and the keeper of his ancient power. People from neighboring villages came to seek her wisdom, but none dared to cross her. They knew that to wrong Abike was to invite the wrath of the spirits themselves. And the legend of Abike, the blind oracle of Ajimoke, spread far and wide. Her story became a warning, passed down through generations, a tale of justice, vengeance, and the power of the unseen forces that govern the land. But for the people of Ajimoke, Abike's presence was more than just a legend. It was a living reminder that no wrong went unanswered. As the years passed, Ajimoke changed. The once proud village now marked by the memory of Tolu's fate and the fall of the hunters learned to respect the spirit of the land. Festivals were held in honor of Oya, the goddess who had granted Abike her power. Offerings were left at the edge of the forest, and the people spoke of the spirits with reverence. Abike herself grew older, though her presence never diminished. Those who sought her out found her unchanged, her sightless eyes still gazing into the unforeseen, her voice still carrying the weight of the forest. She was no longer just a girl, but a bridge between the human world and the spirits. Yet, despite her power, Abike lived a life of solitude, bound to the ancient forces that had saved her. One day, many years after Tolu's demise, a young woman named Ifoma arrived at the forest edge. Unlike the others who came to seek Abike's counsel, Ifoma did not come for guidance or revenge. She came with a heart full of grief, for her brother had disappeared into the forest, never to return. "I did not come to question your power, great oracle," Ifoma said as she knelt before Abike. "I only ask for your mercy. My brother ventured into the forest, unaware of its sacredness. He was young and foolish. I beg you, return him to me." For a moment, Abike was silent. The spirit whispered around her, carrying Ifoma's words like leaves on the wind. "Your brother disturbed the balance of the forest," Abike said slowly. "He wandered where he was not meant to go." Ifoma's heart sank, but she did not give up. "Please, I will do anything. Just tell me what must do." The spirit stirred, and Abike felt their guidance. Though her connection to them had only deepened over the years, she had never granted anyone what Ifoma was asking for. But there was something pure in the girl's plea, something that reminded Abike of herself. when she had once wandered through the same woods, lost and desperate. There is a way, Abike finally said, her voice as soft as the breeze, but the price is steep. Reformer's eyes widened with hope. I will pay it. Abike stood slowly, her hands tracing the patterns of the earth beneath her feet. You must venture deep into the forest to the sacred river where the spirits gather. There you must offer something of equal value to your brother's life, a sacrifice of your own choosing. Ifeoma hesitated for only a moment. Before nodding, she knew what she had to do. I will give my life for his, she whispered. Abike's expression softened, and for the first time in years she felt the weight of her power. The spirits will decide, she said quietly. Go now, and remember that no path in the forest is ever walked alone. With that, Ifeoma disappeared into the woods, guided by the unseen hands of the spirits. Abike watched her go, her heart heavy with the knowledge of what would come. For though the forest had once spared her, it demanded balance in all things. Days passed and no word came of Ifeoma. The villagers of Ajimoke waited anxiously, unsure of what fate the young woman would meet. But Abike knew. She could feel the pull of the forest, the shifting of the winds, and the whispers of the spirits had waited. Then on the seventh day, Ifeoma returned. She was not alone. Her brother walked beside her, his eyes wide with way and gratitude. The villagers grasped in disbelief, for it was said that once the spirit claimed a soul, it was never returned. How is this possible? The elders asked, their voices trembling with fear. Abike smiled faintly, her eyes gazing beyond the present, beyond the village, into the timeless realm of the spirits. The spirits have shown mercy, she said, but the balance has been kept. No one knew what sacrifice Ifeoma had made, but from that day on, the forest was no longer feared. It was revered. The people of Ajimoke came to understand that while the spirit demanded respect, they were also capable of great compassion. As for Abike, she continued to live in the forest, her legend growing with each passing year. Some said she had become immortal, a guardian of the forest, who would live for as long as the spirit willed it. Others believed she was no longer human at all, but a spirit herself, watching over the land and ensuring that justice, once served, would always be remembered. But in the hearts of the people, Abike remained the blind orphan girl, once wronged but never forgotten. Her story would be told for generations, a tale of vengeance, forgiveness, and the delicate balance that held the world together. And so, the legend of Abike, the blind oracle of Ajimoke, came to an end, not with a curse, but with a legacy of both fear and hope, forever intertwined in the heart of the Yoruba land.
And so, dear viewers, as we reflect on the enduring legacy of Abike, we invite you to become part of this tale. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know what you felt as the story unfolded, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating stories that inspire and uplift. Together, let's keep the spirit of storytelling alive, weaving new legends for generations to come.